I think I didn't do anything wrong. Just had one little playful moment with my husband's boss at the party. It wasn't serious, but now my husband sent me divorce papers, and everyone's acting like I'm the villain. All I did was have a little fun. Why does everyone want to punish me for it? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The hotel ballroom sparkled with golden lights and the sound of clinking glasses. Leon's company holiday party was always elegant, but this year I felt particularly radiant in my red dress. At 32, I still turned heads, and tonight I intended to enjoy every minute of it. "Perdita, you look stunning," Mitchell Reeves said, appearing beside me at the bar. Leon's boss was 47, distinguished, and married, but that didn't stop him from letting his eyes linger on my figure. "Thank you, Mitchell. You clean up pretty well yourself," I replied, touching his arm lightly. The gesture was innocent enough, but I felt the electric thrill of his attention. Leon was across the room, deep in conversation with his IT colleagues. He looked handsome in his navy suit, but lately he'd been so boring, so predictable. Always working, always responsible. When was the last time he'd made me feel desired like this? "Would you like to dance?" Mitchell asked, extending his hand. I glanced toward Leon, who was still absorbed in his technical discussion. "I'd love to." The dance floor was crowded, giving us perfect cover. Mitchell pulled me closer than necessary, his hand resting low on my back. I could smell his expensive cologne and feel the warmth of his breath when he leaned down to whisper in my ear. "You're wasted on IT support, you know," he murmured. "Someone like you should be in management. I could make that happen." "Is that so?" I tilted my head back to look at him, letting my fingers trail along his shoulder. "And what would that require?" His smile was knowing. Just being yourself, beautiful, charming, available. The song ended, but we didn't step apart immediately. I was acutely aware of the other couples around us, some of whom I recognized as Leon's co-workers. Let them look. Let them see that Perdita Vale was still desirable, still worth pursuing. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere quieter," Mitchell suggested, his hand still on my waist. Before I could respond, I felt a firm grip on my arm. Leon appeared beside us, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. "Perdita, we need to go. Elsie's babysitter called." I knew he was lying. Our 8-year-old daughter was staying with his mother tonight, and Miriam would never call unless it was an emergency. But Leon's grip tightened, and his eyes held a warning I'd never seen before. "Of course, darling," I said sweetly, though irritation flared in my chest. "Mitchell, thank you for the lovely dance." "The pleasure was all mine," Mitchell replied, but he was already stepping back, suddenly aware of the tension. Leon guided me through the crowd toward the exit, his hand never leaving my elbow. I caught glimpses of faces as we passed, some curious, some knowing, some disapproving. Sarah from accounting whispered something to her husband. Tom from the help desk shook his head slightly. "You're hurting me," I hissed as we reached the lobby. Leon released my arm immediately, but his expression remained cold. "Get your coat." The drive home was silent except for the hum of the engine. I stared out the window, replaying the evening. So what if I'd danced with Mitchell? So what if we'd flirted a little? It was harmless fun, the kind of attention every woman deserved. "You're being ridiculous," I finally said as we pulled into our driveway. "It was just dancing." Leon turned off the engine and sat for a moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. "Just dancing." "Right. What's that supposed to mean?" He looked at me then, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before, disappointment so deep it looked like grief. "You know exactly what it means, Perdita. The whole office saw you." "Saw me what? Having a conversation, enjoying myself. I'm sorry if that embarrasses you, but I'm not going to hide in a corner all evening just because you're insecure." Leon got out of the car without another word. I followed him inside, my heels clicking angrily on the hardwood floor. "Don't you dare walk away from me," I called after him as he headed upstairs. He paused on the landing, his shoulders sagging. "I'm tired, Perdita. I'm going to bed." "We need to talk about this. You can't just drag me out of there like some jealous teenager and then give me the silent treatment." "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice tonight." "What choice? What are you even talking about?" But he was already in our bedroom, closing the door with a quiet click that somehow felt more final than a slam. I stood alone in the hallway, fury and confusion warring in my chest. How dare he make me feel guilty for having a good time? How dare he act like I'd committed some terrible crime? My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Dale. "Girl, you were on fire tonight. Mitchell couldn't take his eyes off you." At least someone appreciated me. I texted back, "Leon's being a baby about it. So embarrassing. Men are so insecure. You looked amazing." "See?" Dale understood. It was just harmless fun, the kind of flirtation that kept life interesting. Leon was overreacting, probably because he felt threatened by a successful, attractive man like Mitchell. I poured myself a glass of wine and settled on the couch, scrolling through social media. Several people had already posted photos from the party. In one, I could see myself and Mitchell on the dance floor, his hand on my back, both of us laughing. We looked good together, sophisticated, attractive, powerful. Another buzz from my phone. This time it was my mother. "Dale told me about the party. Good for you, sweetheart. Maybe it will remind Leon what he has." Exactly. Maybe this would shake Leon out of his complacency, make him realize he needed to put more effort into our marriage. I wasn't going to apologize for being desirable or for enjoying male attention. If anything, he should be grateful to have a wife other men wanted. I finished my wine and headed upstairs. The bedroom door was still closed, and I could see the light was off underneath. Fine. Let him sulk. In the morning, he'd realize how silly he was being, and things would go back to normal. But as I brushed my teeth in the guest bathroom, I couldn't shake the memory of that look in his eyes. Not anger, not jealousy, something much worse. It looked almost like he was mourning something that had already died. The next morning, Leon was gone before I woke up. His coffee cup sat in the sink, already rinsed, and his side of the bed was made with military precision. Typical Leon. Even when angry, he couldn't leave a mess. I made myself breakfast and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Dale, 2 from my mother, and several text messages from friends who'd been at the party. Everyone wanted to know about my moment with Mitchell. "Mum, call me back. People are talking." Dale's voicemail was breathless with excitement. I called her back while stirring my coffee. "What's all the drama about?" "Perdita, girl, you're all over Facebook. Someone posted a video of you and Mitchell dancing, and the comments are, well, they're interesting." My stomach fluttered with a mix of anxiety and thrill. "What kind of comments?" "Some people are saying you two looked cozy, really cozy. And apparently, after Leon left, you and Mitchell were seen talking by the elevator for like 20 minutes. I had talked to Mitchell after Leon's dramatic exit. He'd found me at the bar, concerned about the misunderstanding with my husband. We'd discussed his job offer, his appreciation for my talents. It was perfectly innocent networking. So, we were talking business. Mitchell mentioned some opportunities in management. Honey, I'm sure it was innocent, but you know how people talk, especially the wives. Jennifer from Leon's department was posting some pretty catty stuff. What did she say? Just, maybe you should check for yourself, and maybe have a conversation with Leon before this gets out of hand. After we hung up, I scrolled through Facebook with growing irritation. Jennifer had indeed posted several passive-aggressive comments about inappropriate behavior and poor Leon. Sarah from accounting had shared the dance video with crying laughing emojis. The wives were clearly jealous, threatened by a woman who could still command attention. But it was the men's comments that really caught my eye. Several of Leon's male colleagues had liked the video, with comments like, "Lucky Mitchell," and "Wish I was the boss." At least the men appreciated what they saw. Leon came home that evening, as I was helping Elsie with her homework. Our daughter looked up hopefully when she heard his key in the door. "Daddy, how was work?" "Fine, sweetheart," Leon said, kissing the top of her head, but his eyes were cold when they met mine across the kitchen table. "We need to talk," I said quietly, "after Elsie goes to bed." Dinner was tense, filled with Elsie's chatter about school, while Leon and I maintained polite facades. I caught our daughter glancing between us several times, her 8-year-old intuition picking up on the undercurrents. Once Elsie was tucked in, Leon and I faced each other in the living room. He sat in his usual chair, but something about his posture was different, more formal, more distant. "People are talking," I began, deciding to address it head-on. "About last night." "I'm aware. It's ridiculous. We danced, we talked. That's what people do at parties." Leon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Perdita, I saw the video. Everyone saw the video. That wasn't just dancing." "What exactly are you accusing me of?" "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm telling you what I observed, what everyone observed." His calm tone was more infuriating than shouting would have been. "You're being paranoid. And frankly, it's embarrassing. People are laughing at you for being so insecure." "Are they? Because the messages I'm getting suggest they're laughing at something else entirely." "What messages?" Leon pulled out his phone and scrolled through something. "Tom from IT. Dude, sorry about the party situation. Mike from accounting. You okay, man? That looked rough. Jennifer, call me if you need to talk. So, your co-workers are gossiping. That's their problem, not ours. My boss's wife called me today Perdita." That stopped me cold. "What?" "Diane Reeves, Mitchell's wife. She wanted to clear the air about last night. Apparently, she's been dealing with Mitchell's wandering eye for years. She thought I should know that he has a pattern." "A pattern of what?" "Of pursuing married women at company events, of making promises about promotions and opportunities, of making wives feel special and desired until he gets what he wants." Heat flooded my cheeks. "That's ridiculous. Mitchell is a professional. He was genuinely interested in my career potential." Leon's laugh was bitter. "Your career potential. Right. In the 8 years you've worked customer service, when have you ever expressed interest in management? Maybe because no one ever offered me the opportunity before. Or maybe because you've never shown any ambition beyond complaining about your job and your boss and how underappreciated you are." His words stung because they held a grain of truth I didn't want to acknowledge. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest, something I thought we valued in this marriage." I stood up, pacing to the window. "I can't believe you're taking their side. Your wife shows a little confidence, gets a little attention, and suddenly I'm the villain." "This isn't about attention, Perdita. This is about respect. For our marriage, for our family, for me." "I didn't disrespect anything. I had a conversation and a dance with your boss. If you can't handle your wife being social and attractive, that's your problem." Leon was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Do you hear yourself right now?" "What?" "Do you hear how you're talking to me? How you're dismissing my feelings, my concerns, my reputation? I'm defending myself against ridiculous accusations. I haven't accused you of anything. I've told you how your behavior made me feel, and you've responded by attacking me, minimizing my feelings and blaming me for being insecure." I opened my mouth to argue, but something in his expression stopped me. He looked defeated, tired in a way that had nothing to do with work or sleep. "Leon, I'm going to bed. We'll talk more tomorrow." He left me standing in the living room, my reflection staring back from the dark window. Outside, I could see the lights of our neighbors' houses, their families settling in for the evening. Normal families, without all this drama and tension. My phone buzzed with another text from Dale. How did the talk go? He's being impossible, acting like I committed adultery or something. Men are so dramatic. Give him time to cool off. He'll realize he's being ridiculous. But as I got ready for bed in the guest room, Leon had locked our bedroom door. I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. The way he'd looked at me, the careful distance in his voice, the locked door. It was just one dance, one conversation, one moment of feeling desired and appreciated. Why was everyone determined to make it into something sordid and wrong? I fell asleep clutching my phone, hoping for a message from Mitchell that would prove Leon wrong about his motives. Something professional and appropriate that I could show my husband as evidence of his paranoia. The message came at 2 a.m. Last night was our little secret. Can't wait to continue our conversation, alone. I stared at the screen in the darkness, my heart pounding. Then I deleted the message and told myself I'd imagined the winking emoji, the suggestive tone. It was just friendly networking, nothing more. But I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The weekend passed in cold politeness. Leon spoke to me only when necessary, focusing his attention on Elsie and household tasks. I tried to maintain normalcy, but our daughter's increasingly worried glances told me I wasn't succeeding. By Monday, I was desperate to prove that everything was fine. When Sarah from Leon's office suggested a group dinner at Marcello's, the Italian place where all the company couples went, I jumped at the chance. It'll be fun, I told Leon over breakfast. Just the usual crowd. We haven't been out in weeks. Leon looked up from his cereal, his expression unreadable. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because you're embarrassed about your overreaction at the party. Because I don't want to spend an evening watching you perform for an audience. Perform? I'm trying to have a normal social life with our friends. Elsie looked between us, her spoon suspended halfway to her mouth. Are you guys fighting? No, sweetheart, I said quickly. Daddy and I are just discussing dinner plans. Leon's jaw tightened, but he nodded. We'll go to dinner. That evening, I dressed carefully in a black wrap dress that showed just enough to remind everyone what Leon had at home. Maybe seeing other men appreciate me would snap him out of his sulk. Marcello's was crowded with the usual Friday night crowd. Our group had reserved the large round table in the back. 8 couples from Leon's office, plus a few singles. I made sure to greet everyone warmly, laughing at jokes and complimenting the wives on their outfits. Perdita, you look gorgeous as always, said Tom from the help desk, earning a sharp look from his wife Linda. Thank you, Tom. Leon picked out this dress. I squeezed my husband's arm, but he remained rigid beside me. The conversation flowed around topics of work, kids, weekend plans. I contributed enthusiastically, making sure everyone could see how normal and happy I was. When Jennifer mentioned the holiday party, I laughed it off. That was such a fun night. I think I danced with half the office. Mitchell is surprisingly good on his feet for a boss. A few people chuckled uncomfortably. Leon's hand tightened around his water glass. Speaking of Mitchell, said Mike from accounting, did you hear he's being transferred to the Denver office? The table went quiet. I felt my face flush. Transferred? Yeah, apparently his wife wanted a change of scenery. Something about wanting to be closer to her family. Mike's eyes flicked between Leon and me. Sudden decision from what I heard. Well, that's too bad, I managed. He's a good boss. The best, Tom agreed, but there was something knowing in his tone that made my skin crawl. Sarah leaned forward. I heard Diane gave him an ultimatum. Denver or divorce. That's just gossip, I said quickly. People shouldn't spread rumors about someone's marriage. The irony of my words hung in the air like smoke. Leon excused himself to the restroom, and I watched him walk away with growing panic. Perdita, Jennifer said carefully, are you and Leon okay? Of course we're okay. Why wouldn't we be? You just seem tense, both of you. We're fine. Leon's been stressed about a project at work, that's all. But even as I said it, I could feel the group's skepticism. They'd all seen the video, heard the rumors, witnessed Leon's early departure from the party. Now, Mitchell's sudden transfer added another piece to a puzzle I didn't want them to solve. When Leon returned, his face was pale. He sat down heavily and immediately called for the check. "We need to go. Babysitter has school tomorrow." "But we haven't even ordered dessert." "Now, Perdita." The drive home was silent until we were almost to our street. Then Leon spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "Mitchell texted you." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "While you were in the bathroom earlier, your phone was on the table. It lit up with a message from Mitchell. Everyone saw it." "What did it say?" "Wish you were coming to Denver with me." I closed my eyes, feeling the walls closing in. "Leon, I can explain." "Can you? Can you explain why my boss is sending my wife messages about wishing she would move across the country with him? Can you explain why his wife is so threatened by you that she's forcing a transfer?" "It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Perdita? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife had an affair with my boss, humiliated me in front of my colleagues, and is now lying to my face about it." "I didn't have an affair. We talked, we flirted. Maybe things got a little intense, but nothing happened." Leon pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. In the darkness of the garage, I could barely see his face. Define nothing happened. "We didn't sleep together." "But you wanted to." The question hung between us like a blade. I could lie, deny it, gaslight him into thinking he was imagining things. But something in his tone told me he already knew the answer. I was flattered by his attention. He made me feel attractive, desirable. Things have been so routine between us, and he reminded me that I'm still a woman other men want. "So you decided to explore that, in front of my entire office, at my company party." "I didn't plan anything. It just happened. A dance, some conversation. If you hadn't made such a scene..." "If I hadn't made a scene, what? You would have gone to his hotel room?" The question hit me like a physical blow, because I'd been wondering the same thing. If Leon hadn't intervened, if Mitchell had suggested continuing our conversation upstairs, would I have said yes? "I don't know," I whispered. Leon nodded slowly, as if I'd confirmed something he'd already suspected. "Thank you for being honest." We sat in the dark garage for several more minutes, the weight of my admission settling between us like a stone. "What happens now?" I asked. Leon got out of the car without answering. But as we walked into the house, I saw him pull out his phone and scroll through his contacts. He stopped at a name I couldn't see and tapped the screen. "This is Leon Vale," he said quietly. "I'd like to schedule a consultation." The next few days passed in a strange, suspended quiet. Leon went to work, came home, helped Elsie with homework and went to bed. He was polite but distant, like a courteous stranger sharing our house. I tried to engage him, to start conversations about normal things, Elsie's upcoming school play, plans for Thanksgiving, a funny story from work. He responded appropriately, but without warmth, as if he were conserving his emotional energy for something else. Elsie noticed the change immediately. She became clingy and anxious, asking repeatedly if Mommy and Daddy were okay. I assured her everything was fine, but she wasn't convinced. "Why doesn't Daddy hug you anymore?" she asked one evening, as I tucked her into bed. "Daddy's just tired from work, sweetheart. Everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine, and we all knew it. On Thursday evening, I decided to force a confrontation. Leon was in his home office, typing on his laptop with unusual intensity. I knocked on the doorframe. "Can we talk?" He looked up, his expression neutral. "About what?" "About us, about what happened, about how we move forward." Leon saved his document and closed the laptop. "Come in, sit down." I perched on the edge of the chair across from his desk, suddenly nervous. I've been thinking about what I said in the car, about not knowing if I would have, if things would have gone further. And I want you to know that I would never actually cheat on you. I love you, Leon. I love our family. Maybe I got caught up in the attention. Maybe I made some poor choices. But I would never cross that line. Leon leaned back in his chair, studying my face. Do you believe that? Of course I believe it. I know myself. Do you? Because from my perspective, you spent an entire evening flirting with my boss, dancing inappropriately with him, exchanging phone numbers, and making plans to continue your conversation privately. Then you lied to me about it, gaslit me when I expressed concern, and publicly humiliated me in front of my colleagues. And when I asked if you would have slept with him, you said you didn't know. I was being honest about my confusion in that moment, but deep down, I know I wouldn't have gone that far. Deep down, Leon repeated, the same deep down that told you it was appropriate to flirt with my boss, the same deep down that told you I was being paranoid and insecure. I felt anger flare in my chest. Are you going to punish me forever for one mistake, for one moment of poor judgment? Is that what you think this is about? Punishment? Isn't it? You're giving me the silent treatment, making me feel like a criminal in my own home, acting like I committed some unforgivable sin. Leon opened his laptop again and turned the screen toward me. I want you to read something. On the screen was a document titled Emotional Affair, Signs and Consequences. My stomach dropped. I've been doing research, Leon said calmly. Trying to understand what happened, what's happening, and what comes next. Leon, read the list of signs, Perdita, out loud. I scanned the screen, my hands trembling. I don't want to play this game. It's not a game. Read them. My voice was barely a whisper. Secretive communication with someone outside the marriage. Sharing personal information and intimate thoughts. Physical attraction and flirtation. Lying or omitting information about the relationship. Comparing the affair partner favorably to the spouse. Which of those apply to your relationship with Mitchell? I couldn't answer. They all applied, every single one. Now, read the section about gaslighting. Leon, please, read it. Making the betrayed partner question their own perceptions. Minimizing the significance of the affair. Blaming the betrayed partner for being insecure or controlling. Refusing to take responsibility for hurtful actions. The words hung in the air between us like an indictment. I had done all of these things, used every single tactic to make Leon doubt his own reality. You didn't mean to have an emotional affair with my boss. You didn't mean to lie to me about it. You didn't mean to make me feel crazy for trusting my own eyes. I made mistakes, but I didn't set out to hurt you. No, you set out to feel good about yourself. My feelings, our marriage, my reputation, those were acceptable casualties as long as you got the attention you wanted. I started to cry, not from sadness, but from frustration and fear. What do you want from me? I've apologized. I've admitted I was wrong. What more can I do? Leon reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. You can start by reading these. What are they? Printouts of your text messages with Mitchell, screenshots of your social media interactions, photos from the party that I requested from several colleagues, phone records showing the calls you made to him after the party. My blood turned to ice. You've been spying on me. I've been documenting the truth, because I knew that eventually you'd try to rewrite history, minimize what happened, make me question what I saw and heard. This is insane. You're treating me like a criminal. I'm treating you like someone who betrayed my trust and then lied about it repeatedly. I stood up, knocking over the chair. I can't live like this. I can't have you monitoring my every move, analyzing my every word, treating me like I'm some kind of sociopath. Then don't. The quiet words stopped my rant cold. What? Leon stood up too, and for the first time in days, he looked directly into my eyes. Don't live like this. Don't live with someone who can't trust you. Don't stay married to someone who makes you feel like a criminal. Are you asking for a divorce? I'm telling you that I can't continue in a marriage where I'm constantly wondering what you're really thinking, who you're really talking to, what you're really doing when you're not with me. I can't live with someone who thinks my feelings are obstacles to overcome rather than things that matter. But I love you. Do you? Or do you love the security I provide? The stability, the home, the family structure? The question hit me like a physical blow. How can you ask me that? Because when you had the chance to choose me, to choose our marriage, you chose the excitement of my boss's attention instead. You chose feeling desired over being trustworthy. You chose your ego over our family. It was one night. It was a choice, Perdita, and it showed me who you really are when faced with temptation. It showed me how you handle conflict, how you treat my feelings, how you respond when caught in wrongdoing. I sank back into the chair, overwhelmed by the weight of his words. So what happens now? Leon sat back down and reopened his laptop. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be going forward, and I decide what kind of life I want to build. With or without me. With or without you. That night I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. Down the hall I could hear Leon moving around in our bedroom, our former bedroom, getting ready for another day of polite distance and careful courtesy. For the first time since the party, I tried to see the situation through his eyes. The flirting, the lies, the gaslighting, the public humiliation. The way I'd made him question his own perceptions, dismissed his feelings, blamed him for my choices. But even as I tried to feel genuine remorse, part of me still insisted that he was overreacting. It was one dance, one conversation, one moment of feeling alive and desired. Why couldn't he forgive me? Why couldn't we move past this? The answer came to me in the darkness, because I wasn't actually sorry. I was sorry I'd been caught, sorry for the consequences, sorry for the disruption to my comfortable life. But I wasn't sorry for the way Mitchell had made me feel, and Leon knew it. The realization should have motivated me to change, to fight for my marriage, to become the wife Leon deserved. Instead, it made me angry. Angry at Leon for not appreciating what he had. Angry at the office wives for their jealousy and gossip. Angry at Mitchell for his cowardice in accepting the transfer instead of fighting for what we'd started. I fell asleep planning my counterattack, already composing the conversations I'd have with Dale and my mother about Leon's unreasonable behavior. Already crafting the narrative where I was the victim of his insecurity and control. I had no idea that Leon was 3 steps ahead of me, and that my counterattack would be the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. Friday morning, I woke up determined to take control of the situation. Leon had been playing mind games, trying to make me feel guilty and small, but I was done being the villain in his victim narrative. I called Dale while Leon was at work and Elsie was at school. I need your support, I said without preamble. Leon is being completely unreasonable about this whole Mitchell thing, and I think he's having some kind of breakdown. What do you mean? He's been cold and distant all week, sleeping in our bedroom with the door locked, treating me like I'm some kind of criminal. Last night he showed me all this research about emotional affairs and gaslighting, like he's trying to diagnose me or something. That does sound intense. What exactly happened at the party? I gave Dale my version, the innocent flirting, the harmless dance, Leon's jealous overreaction and public scene. I mentioned Mitchell's texts, but framed them as professional networking that Leon was misinterpreting. So he's punishing you for being social and attractive. That's not healthy, Perdita. Exactly. And now he's talking about not being able to continue in our marriage. Over one dance. He said that? He's being emotionally manipulative, trying to make me beg for forgiveness for something that wasn't even wrong. I think he might be having a midlife crisis or something. Dale was quiet for a moment. Have you considered marriage counseling? I suggested it, but he's not interested in working on things. He just wants to punish me. That afternoon, I called my mother and gave her the same version of events. Ruth Harper had never been Leon's biggest fan. She thought I'd married beneath me, settling for stability over passion. I told you years ago that man was too controlling, she said predictably. Remember how he insisted on managing all the finances? How he always had to approve your purchases? I thought that was just being responsible. It was about control, sweetheart, and now he's trying to control your social interactions too. You're 32 years old, not some teenager who needs supervision. By evening, I felt fortified by their support. When Leon came home, I was ready for battle. We need to talk, I announced as he hung up his coat. After Elsie goes to bed. No, now. I've been thinking about our conversation last night, and I have some things to say. Leon looked at me for a long moment, then nodded toward his office. Fine. Once the door was closed, I launched into my prepared speech. I've been talking to my family about what's been happening, and they're concerned about your behavior. My behavior? The way you've been treating me, the cold shoulder, the locked bedroom, the research and documentation like I'm some kind of criminal. It's not normal, Leon. I see. And what do they think is normal? Forgiveness, communication, working together to rebuild trust instead of this punishment and control. Leon sat down behind his desk, his expression unreadable. Control. Yes, control. You're trying to control how I feel about what happened, control my relationships, control the narrative of our marriage. And how should I be handling this situation according to your family? Like a mature adult who recognizes that marriages go through rough patches. Like a husband who values his wife enough to fight for their relationship instead of giving ultimatums. Leon opened his laptop and began typing. Interesting perspective. Are you even listening to me? I'm listening, and I'm taking notes. Notes. For my lawyer, this conversation is quite illuminating. The words hit me like cold water. Your lawyer? Leon turned the screen toward me. On it was an email draft to someone named David Chen at Chen & Associates Family Law. You contacted a lawyer? I had a consultation yesterday. David thinks I have a strong case for dissolution based on irreconcilable differences and breakdown of trust. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. I also opened a separate bank account and transferred half our savings. I've documented all of your communications with Mitchell, gathered witness statements from colleagues about the party incident, and started the paperwork for temporary custody arrangements. I felt the room spinning around me. Temporary custody? Elsie is my daughter. Elsie is our daughter, and she deserves stability while we work through this process. What process? I'm not agreeing to any divorce. Leon closed the laptop and looked at me calmly. You don't have to agree. In this state, I can file for no-fault dissolution. Your consent isn't required. You bastard. You've been planning this all week while pretending to consider reconciliation. I haven't been pretending anything. I told you I was deciding what kind of life I wanted to build. This conversation helped me decide. What's that supposed to mean? It means that instead of taking responsibility for your actions, you spent the week building a support network to validate your victim narrative. Instead of showing remorse, you've been gathering allies to help you paint me as controlling and unreasonable. I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words died in my throat. That was exactly what I'd been doing. Your mother thinks I'm controlling because I manage our finances responsibly. Your sister thinks I'm insecure because I objected to your public flirtation with my boss. And you think I'm punishing you because I won't pretend that what happened was acceptable. It wasn't that bad. Stop. Leon's voice was sharp. Just stop. Don't minimize it again. Don't gaslight me again. Don't tell me my feelings are wrong or my perceptions are skewed. I'm not. You're doing it right now. Even after I showed you the research, even after you admitted to all the signs of emotional infidelity, you're still trying to convince me that my response is the problem. I felt tears of frustration building. So you're just giving up, throwing away 8 years of marriage because I made one mistake? I'm protecting myself and our daughter from someone who thinks manipulation is an acceptable response to conflict, someone who blames everyone else for the consequences of her choices. I'm not manipulative. Leon pulled a small digital recorder from his desk drawer and pressed stop. This entire conversation has been you trying to manipulate me, telling me how your family thinks I should behave, trying to make me feel guilty for protecting myself, minimizing your affair and maximizing my response. You recorded me. David suggested I document all our interactions going forward for the custody hearing. The custody hearing. The words made my legs weak. Leon, please, don't do this. Think about Elsie. I am thinking about Elsie. I'm thinking about what kind of environment she needs to grow up in, what kind of model she needs for healthy relationships. She needs her parents together. She needs parents who respect each other, trust each other, and model appropriate behavior. We can't do that anymore. That night, I called Dale in a panic. He's filing for divorce. He's been planning it all week. Oh my God, are you sure? He hired a lawyer, moved money, recorded our conversation. He's going for custody of Elsie. Can he do that? I don't know. I need to call a lawyer myself. But even as I said it, I felt the ground shifting beneath me. Leon had been methodical, careful, strategic. He had documentation, witnesses, evidence. What did I have? A sister who thought I was being treated unfairly, and a mother who'd never liked my husband. For the first time since the party, I began to understand the true cost of my choices. This wasn't about one dance or one conversation. This was about trust, respect, and the fundamental compatibility required for marriage. And I was about to lose everything. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, served by a professional process server who apologized for the inconvenience. I stared at the legal documents with their cold, formal language, trying to process the reality of my situation. Leon was seeking dissolution of marriage based on irreconcilable differences. He wanted primary custody of Elsie, with supervised visitation for me, until the court could assess the stability of the respondent's living situation. He was claiming half of our assets, but leaving me the house, probably because he knew I couldn't afford the mortgage payments alone. I called 3 lawyers that day. The first consultation was a disaster. The attorney took one look at Leon's documentation and suggested I consider mediation instead of litigation. The second lawyer was more optimistic until I mentioned the recorded conversations and witness statements. By the third consultation, I was desperate enough to hire anyone who would take my case. Marcus Webb was a solo practitioner with a small office above a dry cleaner. His rates were reasonable, which should have been my first red flag. We can fight this, he assured me. Emotional affair isn't grounds for losing custody. We'll argue that your husband is being vindictive and controlling. But as the weeks progressed, it became clear that Marcus was out of his depth. Leon's attorney, David Chen, was methodical and thorough. Every motion we filed was countered with documentation I didn't know existed. Every argument we made was refuted with evidence I'd forgotten about. The worst part was watching Elsie navigate the separation. Leon had moved into a furnished apartment across town, and our daughter spent weekdays with me and weekends with him. She was confused, anxious, and increasingly withdrawn. "Why can't Daddy come home?" she asked one evening as I helped her with homework. "Daddy and I are having some grown-up problems, sweetheart, but we both love you very much." "Is it because of the party?" My blood went cold. "What do you know about the party?" "I heard Grandma Miriam talking to Daddy on the phone. She said you were dancing with someone else and it made Daddy sad." Leon's mother had cut off all contact with me the day the divorce papers were filed. Miriam had always been polite but distant, and apparently my behavior at the party had confirmed her worst suspicions about me. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes," I said carefully, "but that doesn't mean we love you any less." "Did you make a mistake, Mommy?" I looked into my daughter's innocent eyes and felt the weight of my choices crushing down on me. "Yes, baby. I made a mistake." The custody evaluation was scheduled for November. A court-appointed psychologist would interview both Leon and me, observe our interactions with Elsie, and make a recommendation to the judge. I spent hours preparing, practicing answers to potential questions, trying to present myself as a stable, loving mother. But the evaluation didn't go as planned. A divorcing mother downplays her emotional affair during a custody evaluation with Dr. Martinez, insisting her daughter Elsie is resilient. Leon builds a compelling case with witnesses and texts exposing her lies. Dr. Martinez recommends primary custody to Leon for the mother's minimization and blame shifting. The judge grants Leon custody, supervised visits for her pending counseling, house sale, and 2 years minimal support. Leon leaves with Elsie, hoping she gets help to become the mother Elsie deserves. 6 months on, she's in a studio, working 2 jobs, bitter and isolated. Elsie thrives with promoted Leon and his kind girlfriend. She realizes she lost everything, not over one dance, but by choosing excitement over loyalty, ego over empathy, manipulation over honesty, alone with final consequences.